In this WrestleTalk news, CM Punk is injured and needs surgery, more backstage talk on MJF and AEW, my review of SmackDown, Tempest review of Rampage, and more. Subscribe and enable notifications to always on for daily wrestling news videos.
Support WrestleTalk!
In a whirlwind week for AEW, which started with all the MJF controversy heading into Double or Nothing itself, CM Punk becoming the new AEW World Champion, MJF's pipe bomb promo on Dynamite, Hiroshi Tanahashi appearing on Dynamite as well, this week's Rampage continued the craziness. CM Punk tweeted a couple of hours before the show to say he had a special announcement about the AEW Championship and his career, which already got the speculation wheels turning. And sure enough, on Rampage, Punk did a promo implying he had a broken foot or ankle and would need time off for surgery. There was some confusion that ensued about what was happening with the AEW World title, as Chris Jericho on commentary noted that Punk had relinquished the title, which was incorrect. There will be an interim champion crowned at Forbidden Door later this month, and how we get there is as follows. There will be a Battle Royale next week on Dynamite to open the show, with the winner of that Battle Royale facing Jon Moxley, who is currently #1 in the rankings, in the main event. The winner of that match will go on to Forbidden Door, where the interim champion will be crowned. Who that person will be facing at Forbidden Door is unclear, though if Punk was originally scheduled to face Hiroshi Tanahashi at the show, perhaps Tanahashi will still be in the match. This interim champion will then face CM Punk down the line once he's back from injury. So, who the hell is it gonna be? Firstly, best wishes to Punk. What an awful time to get injured right as you win the AEW title. And secondly, what do you think about the direction from here? I personally think this is the right call, and hell, if this means we can be treated to some CM Punk commentary while he heals up, I'm all for it. I would have Wardlow win the Battle Royale myself. I think that would be very cool. Hell, maybe even make him the interim champion. Screw it. Yesterday's news video covered some of the reaction backstage to MJF's pipe bomb and the ongoing situation between him and AEW, with some being not so thrilled about it, partially due to more work others needed to do to cover MJF no-showing the meet and greet, to others saying that Tony Khan has said repeatedly he wouldn't work his own roster. There's been more of it reported by the Wrestling Observer newsletter, who said that there are many AEW wrestlers who believe this entire situation was a work from the start. Some wrestlers played it off like it's wrestling and whatever, but others weren't so happy about it. One wrestler in the latter camp said that this was a sloppy work that in the long run will benefit nobody. Now that MJF has been removed from the AEW roster page as well as the opening video stings from AEW shows too, the situation continues to develop. What do you think is next? I have no idea. I'm just along for the ride. And now it's time for my review of SmackDown in about 5 minutes. You could tell from the off that this was going to be a filler show because they had the full intro playing. No, I am not ready for a good time. And in classic filler fashion, we had a lengthy recap of the 6-man tag main event with New Day and Drew McIntyre, followed by a New Day promo where they put over Drew for helping them last week, who put over Big E, which was lovely. Drew mentioned that he will be challenging for the Universal WWE Championship at Clash at the Castle, but that's in 3 months' time. You mean WWE is thought ahead? The Brawling Brutes interrupted and said they could beat them if they faced them again. Butch ran down into the ring and got beaten up, and after an ad break, it was time for a rematch of last week's main event in a 6-man tag. As I said, filler show. The match was fine, they're all good wrestlers, but this time the Brawling Brutes won with Butch hitting the bitter end on Woods. Glad that Woods got the win last week for him to lose this week. After a recap of the championship contenders match from Raw, which the Usos intentionally lost, giving Riddle and Nakamura a title shot because logic doesn't matter, Riddle and Nakamura did a backstage promo where they also played another video recap of the Usos winning the titles. Filler show. Max Dupree told Adam Pearce that the first member of Maximum Male Models will be unveiled next week. Can't wait. We then got a very long video package promoting Cody versus Seth at Hell in a Cell, and then it was Humberto versus Jinder Mahal in a match where Jinder Mahal won because Shanky did some dancing on the outside, which distracted both Jinder and Humberto because he's such a great dancer, you see, and Jinder got the roll-up win and was still annoyed about it afterwards. Did you know this is the Hell in a Cell go-home show? After a recap of the Shotzi promo, her getting locked inside the locker room in the subsequent women's tag match from last week, we then got a 6-pack challenge of Raquel Rodriguez versus Shotzi versus Aaliyah versus Natalya versus Shayna Baszler versus Xia Li for the #1 contendership to Ronda Rousey's Women's Championship. Raquel entered, Shotzi entered, and Aaliyah's music hit, but she had been locked in the women's locker room by Shotzi. It then cut to an ad break, and when we came back, Shayna Baszler entered, Natalya entered, Xia Li entered, and then Aaliyah came out right as the match started, meaning the locking her in the room was entirely pointless. This match wasn't great, it lacked a lot of pace and meaning behind any of the spots, but as it looked like Raquel was going to win after hitting her finish, Shayna locked in the Kirifuda clutch on her, allowing Natalya to steal the pin. Of all the people in this match, I think I wanted to see Natalya versus Rousey the least. The only mildly interesting thing is that Natalya not only stole the pin from Raquel, but also from Shayna, who potentially was in a winning position. That's what we need. More women's tag teams to split up. After yet another recap of Corbin attacking Madcap Moss and a Corbin promo, Madcap then returns in an ambulance. Why? Why would he be in an ambulance? He's got black trunks now and no suspenders, complete with generic rock music. So now he's gone from having a very stupid character to having none at all, which I think is an improvement. Lacey Evans got a video package as well somewhere in here because they needed to fill time and also because their pacing is horrible. I mean, seriously, can you imagine putting an ad break in a really intrusive... Madcap called out Corbin in a fired-up promo that was good. Corbin appeared and said he wouldn't fight him today, but Adam Pearce came out and said, yes you will. So they had a quick match where Moss got DQ'd for using a chair and then looked sad because he got DQ'd. He tried to replicate the spot that injured him using the steps and a chair around Corbin's neck, but he was saved by the officials. We got an Usos promo backstage and we're told that the Usos versus Riddle and Nakamura for the undisputed tag titles is next. Except, it isn't though, is it? Because then we got an ad break, a backstage promo where Adam Pearce made the match official of Corbin versus Madcap at Hell in a Cell in a no-holds-barred match, the announcement of Ricochet versus Walter next week for the Intercontinental Championship. Ricochet did a promo, Walter and Ludwig Kaiser did a promo, Riddle and Nakamura did their entrance, we got a rundown of Hell in a Cell matches, the Usos did their entrance, we got a rundown of more Hell in a Cell matches, the introductions for the title match happened, and then there was another ad break. I feel so bad for this live crowd. They were super hot at the start of this show, but they were given absolutely nothing to care about and had long stretches of absolutely nothing happening in the ring. So by the end, they were completely dead, even for this relatively fun tag title match. Nakamura got kayfabe injured towards the start of this match, being taken out by referees after one threw up the X, so Riddle was left fighting by himself, which is a great story to tell. He seemed to do a little too well, if you ask me though, because he was then almost always on top. Also, the momentum of people getting behind Riddle as he realized he was fighting by himself was derailed by an immediate ad break, because of course it was. Riddle looked like he was going to win, lining up for the Super RKO on Jimmy, but then Roman Reigns' music played and Jay tagged himself in. Riddle still hit the Super RKO, but Jay hit the splash on Riddle for the win. It was revealed that Sami Zayn was the one who played Reigns' music, which is all well and good if it actually distracted Riddle, which it didn't. He still hit the move he wanted to, Jay just tagged himself in, which would have happened even if the music didn't play? Nice idea, bad execution. Hope you're excited for Hell in a Cell after that show. The streak lives on. If they play the full intro at the start of the show, they're filling for time because they've got nothing else on and it's going to be a filler show. And a filler show it was. This was not good from top to bottom. The best this show ever got was fine, which wouldn't be good enough on a regular week, but on a go-home show as well, definitely not. An only fine at best show with god-awful pacing and distracting booking means this is a 1 out of 5 show. And then now over to Tempest for his review of last night's Rampage, featuring the announcement of CM Punk's injury.
You know, I really enjoy working with you, Sully. Tell me, how do you feel about this current CM Punk situation?
Kick bollocks!
You know, I couldn't agree more. What's going on, WrestleTalk friends and fans? Tempest is back with another review of AEW Rampage in about 3 minutes. We're gonna do things out of order this week because the biggest news coming out of AEW Rampage is that CM Punk is injured and will be requiring surgery. Punk limped down to the ring with tears in his eyes, and you could tell that this was just crushing him, that he was about to go on the most absolutely unbelievable run as AEW World Champion, and now he's got another roadblock to deal with. They made it clear that CM Punk will not be relinquishing the championship, which leads me to believe that he won't be on the shelf for that long. It appears to be a foot injury. Maybe he can get surgery and come back within a few weeks or a few months. That would be the ideal scenario. But I am bloody upset about CM Punk being injured. This is just not fair. AEW really hasn't had its World Championship plans derailed to this point, you know, except for that whole thing. And this really is a shame. There's no way around it. This was going to be a really fun run for CM Punk as World Champion, and it's not like we're not going to get that, but this really would have been the perfect time. There would have been so many possibilities. Can you imagine this CM Punk against this current MJF for the world title on pay-per-view? Oh, the possibilities would have been endless. This was a very emotional segment, one that I haven't seen on Rampage in God, I don't know how long. And it's gonna get a 5 out of 5, even if it did completely break my heart. And of course, make sure you check out WrestleTalk.com with any updates on CM Punk's condition. Now, the actual show kicked off with a spectacular tag team match pitting the hometown Young Bucks against the Lucha Brothers. It really is wild that 3 years ago, this was the super promoted tag team match of the first Double or Nothing, and now it's the opener of Rampage. That's not a bad thing, that's just escalation, but man, every time these two teams step in the ring, they produced banger after banger after banger, and this one was no exception. These two teams do not miss, and the Young Bucks really got the hometown treatment as they got a huge win hitting the BTE trigger on Rey Fenix for the win. This of course was after Matt Jackson unmasked Pentagon, and after these two teams traded a series of unbelievable spots. This was a fantastic opener, probably one of the best on all of AEW programming this year. I would not be surprised at all if the Young Bucks were the ones to beat Jurassic Express for the tag titles, and maybe have the Young Bucks be the ones to have a transitional run as champions and move the belts on to FTR at All Out. I don't know, that sounds pretty good to me. If that is the case, the Young Bucks got a huge boost here with the win over the Lucha Brothers, and I had a lot of people telling me very recently that the Young Bucks were cold, and man, I don't see it. Maybe they weren't having weekly bangers like they were as AEW World Tag Team Champions last year, but man, these two guys, they put on great matches every single time they step in the ring, and here, we've had like 3 of them in a week. This was one of the better AEW TV matches this year. This gets a 5 out of 5. And then we had one of the quickest squash matches of the year as Team Taz took on just 2 guys. Ricky Starks and Powerhouse Hobbs utterly dominated this match, and you didn't even have to pay attention to it. I wasn't paying attention because AEW started doing this new thing where they had inset promos during the matches, and well, they got the win during the promo. I kind of like this format if it keeps us from having a bunch of backstage segments on an already cluttered Rampage, although I don't know that I would time them this way if it means we're gonna miss the finish. That being said, if you're gonna miss the finish of a match, it might as well be a squash match. This gets a 2 out of 5 just because it wasn't long enough to be anything better, but I enjoyed it. And then we had a match I was really looking forward to as Kiera Hogan, the better Hogan, took on the debuting Athena. At times they just felt like they were on separate pages from one another. Moves didn't land quite as cleanly as you would like. Sometimes that happens if you wrestle a new opponent or you're having a first match in a new promotion, but this wasn't quite the debut for Athena I was hoping it would be. She still hit a very solid Eclipse, and I'll be perfectly honest, I don't know how she doesn't mess up that move more often than she does. It looks like it should be the hardest finisher in the world to hit, but she does it with a spectacular batting average. That Eclipse gave Athena the win, and I'm very much looking forward to her match with Jade Cargill, which will probably be Jade Cargill's biggest title defense to date. We had the aforementioned CM Punk segment and a backstage spooky segment with the House of Black, and then we got the main event TNT Championship match as Scorpio Sky took on Dante Martin. I'm a big fan of Dante Martin. If I was a 12-year-old kid right now, he would be my favorite wrestler. But if I'm being honest, he feels like he's gone cold in AEW these last few months. And I will credit most of that to Darius getting injured again. But at the same time, like, this Team Taz thing that he was part of really went nowhere. I don't know, by this point in the year, I thought I would be much more excited for a TNT Championship match with Dante Martin in it than I am. However, maybe that's because of the state of the TNT Championship, because hot damn, not a fan. Not a fan of this TNT title right now. I mean, not the title itself. That thing is gorgeous. But unfortunately, the last few months have just really made it hard to get interested in Scorpio Sky as TNT champion. I feel like that bled over into the main event because this was like the most perfectly wrestled 3 out of 5 match I've ever seen. Adam Lambert distracted the referee.
Okay, pause. Editing Tempest here. Did this man really just say Adam Lambert? God, I'm tired.
Allowing Ethan Page to try and interfere, only to be taken out by Matt Sydal, setting up Scorpio Sky to hit the TKO on Dante Martin for the win. Somehow this match was exactly what I thought it would be, and I was still disappointed. I really think you need to get the TNT Championship off of Scorpio Sky before you can even think about rehabbing that title. This was a 3 out of 5 main event, and it capped off what I'm still gonna call a 5 out of 5 episode of Rampage because of that opening segment and that Punk promo. It's not often that Rampage is a must-see program, but you have to go out of your way to watch this week. And that just about wraps it up for me. If you want to hear more of my thoughts on this show and last night's SmackDown, make sure you go over to WrestleTalk Podcast today, where Chopper Pete Quinnell and I will be breaking down our thoughts of both shows in complete detail. Until then, don't sharpen the pencil while the teacher is talking, and brush your teeth before drinking the orange juice.
In this WrestleTalk news, the AEW locker room's reaction to MJF's pipe bomb, Thunder Rosa is frustrated with AEW, an update on Forbidden Door plans, and more.